On Christmas Eve, I dragged gifts into the family cabin, expecting to cook dinner. Then my husband arrived with a date in a sparkly red dress. She looked me over and sweetly asked if I was the nanny. I simply smiled. They had no idea that beneath the snow and silence, I held the keys to everything they thought they had stolen from me. My name is Harper Lewis, and for the last 10 years I had defined myself by the skylines I helped reshape. As the co-founder and lead project manager of Evergreen Urban Developments, I was used to high-pressure environments. I was used to structural integrity checks, zoning wars, and the kind of stress that makes your hair fall out in clumps. But as I navigated my SUV up the winding, icy switchbacks of the Colorado Rockies, none of that professional armor seemed to fit. I was just a woman trying to make it home for Christmas, desperate to prove that I could balance the ledger between a demanding career and the people I loved. The trunk was packed so tight with gifts that I could barely see out the rearview mirror. I had spent thousands of dollars on presents I hoped would buy me forgiveness for the late nights and missed dinners of the past year. I told myself this time would be different. I told myself that for the next week I would not check my email once, I would just be Harper. Not the boss, not the paycheck, just the wife and stepmother. I pulled into the long gravel driveway of the Lewis family cabin just as the sun was beginning to dip behind the tree line, painting the snow in shades of bruised purple and grey. The cabin was a massive structure of timber and stone, something Daniel's grandfather had built, and Daniel and I had renovated 3 years ago. It looked picture-perfect. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, and the warm glow of fairy lights framed every window. It smelled like the holidays, that crisp mixture of pine needles and wood smoke that usually signaled safety. But something was wrong. I felt it in my gut before my brain processed the visual data. It was a detail that did not fit the schematic. The driveway was full of cars, my in-laws were here, my brother-in-law's truck was here, but Daniel's sleek black sedan was nowhere to be seen, replaced instead by a pristine white luxury rental. I killed the engine and sat there for a moment, the silence of the mountains pressing in against the glass. Maybe they were running errands together. I pushed the unease down, grabbed as many bags as I could carry, and crunched my way through the snow to the front door. I keyed the code into the lock and shouldered the heavy oak door open, kicking the snow off my boots as I stumbled into the entryway. "Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you're hungry because I brought enough prime rib to feed an army," I called out, my voice sounding too loud, too cheerful in the cavernous space. I expected noise. Instead, I was met with a strained, uncomfortable quiet. My mother-in-law Marion sat in her high-backed armchair, her hands folded primly in her lap. My father-in-law stood by the window, staring out at nothing. And there on the love seat was Lily, my stepdaughter, 19 years old, looking at me with an expression I could not decipher. It was not happy. It was not angry. It was just blank. "Where is Daniel?" I asked, dropping the bags on the floor. The thud echoed in the room. "Is everything okay? Has something happened?" The air in the room was thick, heavy with unsaid words. Then the front door opened behind me. A gust of freezing air swirled into the room, followed by the sound of laughter. I turned around, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Daniel walked in. He looked impeccable, wearing his velvet Christmas blazer, his hair styled perfectly. He was not alone. Walking in right behind him, clinging to the crook of his arm like an expensive accessory, was a woman. She was young, perhaps 25 or 26. She was wearing a red dress that was entirely inappropriate for the weather, tight and sequined and shimmering under the hallway lights. In one hand she held a bottle of expensive champagne. In the other she held a key to the cabin. "Hello, everyone," Daniel said, his voice smooth, carrying that practiced charisma. "I want you all to meet Savannah. She is my +1 for this evening." +1, as if I were not standing 3 feet away, covered in snow, surrounded by the gifts I had wrapped for his family. Savannah stepped forward. She had a beautiful face, polished and bright, with eyes that scanned the room before locking onto me. She looked at my heavy wool coat, my snow-dampened jeans, and my hair, which I had thrown into a messy bun after 6 hours of driving. She smiled. It was a terrifying smile, sweet as sugar and utterly devoid of warmth. "Oh, you must be here to help with the dinner," Savannah said, her voice light and airy. "You arrived so early. Do the children bother you much, or are you just very dedicated? You are the nanny, right?" The room went absolutely still. I looked at Lily. She was 19, she knew exactly who I was. I had paid for her braces. She looked up from her phone, smiled faintly and shrugged. "I am not the nanny," I said, my voice shaking slightly despite my best effort to keep it steady. "I am Harper, I am Daniel's wife." Savannah looked confused, her eyes darting to Daniel. Daniel let out a sigh, the kind a parent makes when a child is being difficult. He draped his arm around Savannah's bare shoulders. "Ex-wife Harper," Daniel said, his tone casual. "We have talked about this. You are making everyone uncomfortable. The final documents were filed 2 weeks ago. I sent a copy to your office." My brain spun. "What are you talking about, Daniel? I've been in Seattle closing the acquisition. We had dinner Tuesday." Marion stood up. "Harper, dear, we know how emotional you get, but this is Christmas. You really should learn how to let go with some grace." "Let go," I choked out a laugh. "I am his wife. I built half of this company. I paid for the renovation of this house. What is happening right now?" "It's the stress, Harper," Daniel countered smoothly. "You're not well. Savannah is moving in after the holidays. It's better if you respect the final terms of the separation agreement. Everything is arranged legally," he added, a smug smile playing on his lips. "Evergreen is protected. The assets are protected. You really should have read the fine print on those restructuring documents last month. I guess you just trusted me." He popped the cork on the champagne. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Cheers to new beginnings," Savannah chirped, holding out a glass. I stood there still wearing my coat, my heart shattering. They were not just ending our marriage, they were erasing me. "You will regret this," I said. It was not a scream, it was a statement of fact. "Oh, Harper," Daniel laughed, "don't be melodramatic, it's Christmas. Go find a hotel, take a bath, relax." "You look like you need it." I turned on my heel and walked out, the front door clicking shut behind me. I was not in shock. The truth was, I had suspected the rot for months. I got back into my SUV, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway. I did not look back at the warm glow of the windows. I drove slowly, not down the mountain, but onto a smaller, unmarked dirt road that paralleled the property line. I pulled over under the thick cover of pine trees. I reached under the passenger seat, not for a jacket, but for a worn leather satchel. The bag contained not cash or cards, but a satellite phone, a high-spec tablet, and a series of legal documents I had been preparing for 6 months. "Declined," I whispered, a dark, slow smile spreading across my face. "You froze my cards, Daniel. You thought I was frantic, that I had no plan. You thought you had all the keys." I opened the tablet. The screen glowed with a complex financial dashboard. For months, every meeting Daniel missed, every zoning document he didn't review, every late-night call I took. It was all a calculated withdrawal from the marriage. When he pushed the restructuring documents across my desk, I read every word. While he was busy having an affair, I was busy building an airtight case of corporate fraud and embezzlement using my own company. The cabin was indeed in a trust. But I had created a secondary trust 3 months ago, which subtly leveraged the original based on the original land purchase deed, a document Daniel thought was lost. I made my first call on the sat phone. "It's Harper, execute Phase 1. "Phase 1 confirmed, Ms. Lewis," a professional male voice responded. "The restraining order has just been served at the main Evergreen office, freezing all corporate assets and seizing the servers. The SEC is en route." I hung up and made a second call. "Lily, it's Harper." Lily answered immediately, her voice small. "Harper, I'm so sorry, I know you are, sweetie," I said calmly. "But you chose your father's side. You told him he deserved a real partner. Now I need you to do one thing. The original Lewis family cabin is built on Lot 4B, which Daniel thought he owned outright. I bought Lot 4C, the land immediately surrounding the cabin, 3 weeks ago, remember? I'm executing the no trespassing injunction now. Legally, the only access to the cabin's front door is through my land. Tell Daniel that his +1 and his family are currently trapped on an island of property, and I've got the deed." I ended the call. Daniel wanted a clean break. He wanted the house, the company, and the perfect little life. He wanted me to go find a hotel and relax. I was not going to a hotel. I had a second cabin, a small, insulated fishing shack on the far side of the lake, entirely off-grid, where I had stashed my real documents, my emergency funds, and the proof of Daniel's crimes. I looked up at the moonless sky. My life was not ending. It was just beginning, and I was holding the pin on Daniel's perfect little life, ready to drop it. "Would you like me to generate an image of Harper, preparing to execute her plan?"